What is up, guys? I wanted to bring you a training on reopening your gym. And this is going to be really for everyone, but very more relevant for those of you who might be able to open up in the next few weeks, which is happening across the board. So some of you guys in America, Canada maybe, and some other places are being able to open very soon. Here in Cyprus, we are being given the go-ahead to open gyms in phase 2 of reopening, which I believe is going to be in about 2 to 3 weeks. And I was in the middle of actually making a quite in-depth checklist. And then I came across this checklist from a friend and a peer of mine, Alicia Streger. So Alicia is someone who helps fit pros with a lot of systems like this. She has some really good work. And so I messaged Alicia and said, hey, I love your checklist. I'm making my own, but I love yours. You've done a lot of the work for me. Is it cool if I just share this on with my clients and give them the link to download it? And she was more than gracious and more than happy to let me do that. So big thanks to Alicia for that, for being a good sport and saving me some work. But this is a really good checklist and pretty much covers all the same things I would have said in really good depth. So you can download a copy of this at the link. Just click the link, open it in Google Doc, and then you need to select File, Make a Copy. And then when you have a copy of the document, you'll be able to edit whatever you want. But let me walk you through this and give you my thoughts and my perspective of this pretty quickly. So first of all, some considerations about making the decision. So she says here, just because the government says it's okay doesn't mean you have to. And you really should think about this, to be honest. It is. I don't actually think every single gym should necessarily open up when the government lets you. And there's a few things for that I've covered in a different video. The first thing you have to do is gauge the reaction or response from your client base, and see and try and get a feel for if they would come back. Because what you have to remember, guys, is this is going to be done in stages. And so if you open up your gym again, you're going to have 100% of the costs, but you won't be able to fill 100% of the capacity. You might only be able to operate at 30% capacity because in the first early stages, you probably won't be able to have more than 9 clients in there at once. There's usually a 10-person limit. And of course, with one coach, that gives you space for 9 clients. So if you're in a smaller studio and you generally only work with 10 to 15 clients anyway, then perfect. You're operating at 75 to 100% of capacity, and it makes sense. But if you have a large, like 4, 5, 6,000 square foot unit, and you usually train 30 to 50 people or more at one time, then just be considerate of that if opening back up means you have to kickstart all your expenses again. So there's a lot of nuances with this, guys. Like, there is no right or wrong answers. I can't just tell you open or don't open. There's so many things to think about, but you need to know your numbers and get on top of that. So that's the first thing to think about doing that. What's the response going to be for you? And then you've got to think about, this is really good, what type of clients do you work with? I mean, if you're working with more of an older population that is, or populations that are suffering with compromised immune systems, of course they could be at a higher risk, and you want to be careful you don't get any negative backlash on social media because of that. And so if you are working with high risk clients in this regard, you do want to be careful of that. This also might help you if for example, if you usually work with larger groups and you're only allowed to bring in 9 clients at a time, you've got to come up with a system of how do you kind of determine who's allowed back in or not, right? Unless you have to put more time slots on through the day. This isn't going to be perfect. It's going to be bumpy, guys. There's no right answers for this. There's no manual because none of us have done this before. And so it's really unprecedented. But you got to think about that. Maybe if you do have an age range that is at higher risk, maybe you would suggest to those people that they come back a few weeks later. However, then you've got to make sure you communicate that in a way that you don't come across as ageist or discriminatory in any way. And it's a sad reality that this is the way things are today, but you do have to be careful of not being criticized for being discriminatory or anything like that. But you just got to think about these things and make the best decision you can. There is no right decision. There's only the best decision right now. Okay, then your business model. So do you have enough space in your facility to everyone while keeping safe or legal distance requirements? That's going to help you determine how many people you can actually bring in. Again, do you work with one-to-one or small private groups? If so, you might have taken a harder hit before the lockdown because you might have lost a lot more clients who canceled a bit or went on freeze a bit earlier, but you're probably going to benefit now because those people will come back in and work with you a lot faster. So in phase 1 of reopening, which is usually up to 10 people, you need to think about your logistics. Also, I would thinking about your workouts. I would also make sure that you keep designated equipment for each person. So you've got to try and make things as safe as possible and follow as many health guidelines as you can, which is going to give more confidence to your clients in your market when they come back in. So one of those things I would do is minimize the transfer of equipment. So if you can construct workouts where maybe people can do it, each client just has maybe one set of dumbbells, one kettlebell, and one resistance band, for example, then you can have your 9 clients in there and they each have their own set of dumbbells and they do the entire workout on that station. So they're not crossing over and they're not changing equipment back and forth either. And that's going to be safer for everybody. So that's some considerations for your workout structure. Then the next consideration is your staff. Do you have the staff to reopen effectively? And how do your staff feel about that? Your staff are just as important as your clients, and you've got to know, do your staff want to come back to work or do they feel unsafe doing it? What are their concerns? You have to take these things into consideration and realize that it's a very bumpy time, but everyone's health and their own personal beliefs do have precedence in this situation. So you have to think about that too. And then the payroll consideration. So if you are on a kind of per hour, per session billing model, as you know, we don't recommend that. And as you go through the FBD program, especially if you're new to this, you will see this is one of the reasons I definitely suggest you never pay your coaches per session. Never pay them per hour. There's no upside in that whatsoever. We have our trainers and employees contracted to a number of hours per week that they will do whatever tasks we require of them in those hours. So, if they're contracted to 20 hours a week, they'll do 20 hours of coaching if we ask them, or they might have to do 5 hours of coaching plus 15 hours of other tasks like content or sales. So the tasks Fit Pros do in our structure is determined on what we need them to do. We're not boxed into only paying them to do a session because that will become a problem here, because if you do have to put more time slots on through the day to let more people come in, now you've got to double, triple, or quadruple what your coaches are making each day, which is just not cost efficient. So think about that. Now, this is a big one here that I love that Alicia mentioned. What about your online virtual sessions? Look, you need to keep these going. You can't just stop. And this is an exact reversal of what we did coming into lockdown. So we began our online virtual training about a week or 2 weeks before lockdown even officially started in the UK, because we knew it was coming, or we had a good guess it was coming. People already started suggesting they didn't want to come into the gym. They felt a bit unsafe. So we started putting online sessions on for those people who maybe had to stay at home or chose to stay at home whilst the gyms were actually still open. So we got people into that. And then when we did have to close, then everyone else just transitioned online. So it's going to be the same inverted coming back out of this. So now it's the same thing. Not everyone will want to come back into the gym. And like I broke down in another video recently, I think if you survey your audience, you're going to find that they're going to come into three camps, basically. You're going to have probably 10 to 15% of your clients who say, I'll be back on day one. I can't wait. I need to be there. You're probably going to have another 15, 20% of people who say, no, I don't feel safe, or maybe they just can't come in because they still have childcare and no work and things like that. And then you're probably going to have like 50 to 60% in the middle of the clients who say, I do want to come back. I am able to come back, but I'm going to wait 2 or 3 weeks and see how it goes first, because they're a little bit cautious or whatever. So you're probably going to find you're only going to work with about 20% of your clients want to come back in anyway. So 60 to 80% of your client base will still need the virtual online stuff that you're doing. So you need to keep that going, okay? And next, surveying. So this is what I've already talked about, surveying your clients. I just talked about that. Okay, so now if you are when and how you're going to reopen, now is time to come up with an action plan. So, okay, so this is a good one here. What's your action plan and policy if a team member or client gets sick with COVID-19 when they come back in? I do think this is a minimal case. I do think a lot of this is really overblown, and a lot of doctors are now on record on YouTube. They're getting silenced very quickly, but many doctors working in the field right now are saying that this is unlikely to happen, and cases are going down a lot more. But just in case, we do have to care about everyone's health. So what steps would you take? How would you notify clients? What would be your backup plan if you decided to lock down yourself again? Maybe you open up and 3 people get infected, and then what do? You don't want to stay open. You might have to then self-impose lockdown on the gym again. So be ready for this, right? What's your rebound plan going to be? If some rumors are circulating, there might be another wave of this later on, right? So if the government were to reinstate lockdown, what would you do then? Okay, these are all good things. You might not have all the answers to this, guys, but make some notes on each of these. You can go and make a copy of this document and just put your notes underneath. Jot down some notes. And what we're probably going to do, guys, is myself with James Calderbank and Stuart, my business partners in our locations around the UK, in England and Wales, we're going to take this document. We're going to be adding our shared notes under this. And then what we'll do is we'll make that document available to you, so you can see our version of this with all our notes and ideas, and we'll leave that in the group for you, so you can see this document being updated weekly, and it might inspire you or inform you of some ideas. So let me know in the comments if that sounds good for you guys. But you could then copy and have your own, where you put your own notes for your business partners and your team. Then you've got to communicate that plan, okay? And your staff, your clients, and your wider community need to be informed of this. So you can do that. Okay, so reopening considerations then. What about special liability forms? This needs to be in place. So your regular personal waiver or PARQ or whatever health insurance waiver you have to now talk to your insurance company and ask, is this still valid? Does it include, so you'll probably have a PARQ or waiver form right now that basically says, people come in, they sign your form that basically says, if I die, it's not your fault, right? We can't be sued if any risk injury happens to them. But does that include COVID-19 with the latest changes in law? So you need to talk to your insurance provider, make sure you're still covered. If not, now what you're going to find is, like we found talking to our insurance people, that a lot of insurance agencies now, of course, are trying to cash in on this. And all of a sudden, you wouldn't believe it, but all of a sudden, our policies didn't cover like additional XYZ unless we paid them more. And of course, that's just how insurance companies are going to make money. So don't immediately increase your insurance rates just because your insurance provider says, oh, you need to buy this now. But shop around. And if that's the case, tell them, okay, before I make the decision to upgrade, I'm going to shop around. And I guarantee you that there'll be at least one other insurance competitor who will be able to match what you're paying and include any up-to-date policies to make sure that you're fully protected by letting people in. And if anyone does get stricken down with COVID-19 due to you reopening, that you cannot have liability for anything. They agree that you've done everything it takes hygiene and safety wise, and there's no liability there. So shop around to see if you can pay the same money to get any new installments to your insurance. Only pay a bit more if it's absolutely necessary. Okay, so insurance, I just covered that. Like masks, what are the safety and health procedures according to your local government? Alicia has designed this document with a USA audience in mind, which will be applicable to some of you guys, but many of you here are also in the UK or Europe or Australia. So you have to look at be on top of your own government guidelines. And I suggest you find a government website that is putting updates, and you bookmark that website and you check it every day, just so you make sure you're on top of the guidelines, you're doing everything according to government guidelines, and no one can call you out on it, basically. Okay, now these quick forehead temperature scans, this is what I get given when I go into a supermarket right now. You might want to get some of these in just to make sure everyone's temperatures are regulated. It's a quick thing if you haven't seen it. It's like a TV remote control. And when someone comes in, they'll just kind of scan your forehead. It takes about 2 seconds, and it'll just, if your temperature is in the safe limit, you can come in, and if not, you might be turned away. So really cool to have those. And then have someone, the same person who's there, can be welcoming the clients. You do a quick 2-second scan, and then spray some bacterial gel on their hands so they can rub and they can go into the session. Then the time between your sessions, make sure you're leaving 5-10 minute buffer zones so you can really wipe down all the equipment and everything. And this is a good one, the time needed for people to get in and out and not to have congested areas. So if you have 9 people in the gym and then you're waiting and they're going to leave, and then you're waiting for the next 9 people to come in, you don't want to, I mean, usually this is good, right? In a usual situation, it's nice when 2 client groups pass, you have that time in between where one group have finished and the other group are waiting to start, and all the clients talk to each other, and it's really cool. But of course now we want to be mindful of that we might not be upsetting anyone or not abiding to government guidelines. So you want to make sure you're not overlapping and having 20 people there at once. Give adequate time and order for people to remove themselves, so the next batch of 9 people can come in and no one congests too much. Okay, you don't want to be because you never know, guys. It could, maybe if your 9 clients go outside back to their cars, and the next 9 clients they're waiting, then you've got 18 people in the car park. Your clients might not care, but then you might have one nosy neighbor, one person that just wants to make life difficult for you from a local business or house, and reports you to the government for not following guidelines. You've got to be considerate of all these things, and that people are very sensitive right now, and we have to be respectful of that, I guess. So taping the floor to block off areas, updating your programming, like I said, not sharing equipment, and looking at outdoor sessions whenever you can as well. That's going to be a big opportunity right now, is getting people outdoor. So look at your stock. This is a really good one. What stock do you need for hand sanitizers, masks, safety procedure posters and reminders to go up in the bathroom and things like that? Maybe having signs up in the bathroom above the taps saying, wash your hands for 20 seconds or whatever. Just make sure you're doing everything to be compliant. Okay. And then, a few more things here you can see on the document, but I thought there was some really good stuff on here, guys, and so I wanted just to link this with you with permission from Alicia. So you can go and check this out. You got the link right there, and that's it. What are your questions, guys? Let me know what you think of this. Are there any other considerations you would want to add to this? Let me know. Okay. All right, guys. Well, any questions on this, just drop them below and we'll keep this discussion going. But that's it from me right now. Hope that helps if you're in one of the areas that is soon to reopen in the next couple of weeks or months. And again, I'm gonna be using this document with my own business partners, Stuart and James, and we're gonna be making a copy of this, and we're gonna be adding our own notes and ideas and strategies highlighted underneath these bullet points, and we'll share that document with you in the group only here in the mastermind. So you'll get literally access to our rolling document, and you'll be able to see exactly what we're doing step by step. So that should help you guys a lot. All right, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you soon.